I've seen a lot of criticism of SpaceX's plan to put AI data centers in orbit. One of the biggest criticisms is that they won't be able to get rid of heat. Critics argue that because space is a vacuum, cooling becomes impossible. Some even say that if you understood thermodynamics or engineering, you'd know the idea doesn't work. As both a space nerd and an engineer, whenever someone tells me something can't be done, I try to understand why. I want to know, where does it break? What are the constraints? And how do we solve them? Because throughout history, many things seemed impossible until someone figured out the engineering. And in some ways, the critics are partially right. Space is a vacuum, and you cannot rely on conduction or convection for cooling. The same methods of cooling that we use on Earth don't necessarily work in space. But they're forgetting something. There are three methods of heat transfer: conduction, heat transfer through direct contact, such as touching a hot stove; convection, heat transfer through moving fluids. One example is air moving around a computer fan; and radiation, energy emitted directly from one object and absorbed by another, which even works in a vacuum. Radiation is everywhere. When you stand outside on a sunny day and feel warmth on your skin, that's radiation. The sun heats Earth almost entirely through radiation. The energy travels through the vacuum of space, and only after it reaches Earth does convection and conduction take over. So, why do we forget this? Every object in the universe radiates energy. Every spacecraft ever built has relied on radiation. The challenge isn't whether radiation works. The challenge is designing enough radiator area to reject the required heat. When people say the science doesn't work, people skipped thermodynamics 101, I scratch my head. Radiation is a well understood physical phenomenon. Spacecraft has been using it for decades. And let's be honest, in the case of the AI-1 satellites, Elon Musk himself is a divisive figure. He's one of the most polarizing figures in technology. The scientific and engineering communities are often split on him. But regardless of how you feel about Elon personally, SpaceX and Tesla have accomplished incredible things. Their engineering teams deserve credit for what they've achieved. And we shouldn't dismiss the ideas simply because of who's proposing them. Another criticism I've seen is that people claim these satellites will be far too large to build and launch. SpaceX's published specs are as follows. Compute power is roughly 120 to 150 kilowatts, with a solar array area of 110 square meters, and a wingspan of roughly 70 meters. Doing the math on that, 100 square meters divided by 70 meters gives us roughly 1.5 meters of average width. Comparing that to the International Space Station, we could see that each International Space Station solar array is approximately 35 meters in length and 12 meters in width, with a total wingspan of 73 meters. And some simple area calculations show us that 35 times 12 equals 420 square meters of total area. The actual effective area that Google says is closer to roughly 376 square meters per array. So what does this mean? The ISS deployed significantly larger solar arrays over 25 years ago. Suddenly, these AI satellites don't seem nearly as outrageous. Another common objection is these satellites will cost too much to launch. And here are the numbers. AI-1 satellite mass will roughly equal 2 to 3 metric tons. At first glance, launch costs sound enormous. People hear $50 million launch cost and assume the economics don't work. The important detail is that SpaceX's Starship is expected to carry around 100 tons to orbit. That means a single launch could carry dozens of the AI-1 satellites. If Starship launches 40 AI-1 satellites, then about $50 million per launch would look more like about $1.25 million launch cost per satellite. At 20 million per launch, that would equal about $500,000 launch cost per satellite. And at $100 million per launch, that would look like $250,000 of launch cost per satellite. And those last two numbers reflect the future projections of Starship. SpaceX is still developing Starship, and full reusability has not been achieved yet. But Elon Musk has stated long-term goals fall around $10 million per launch, and whether that exact number is achieved remains to be seen. But lower launch costs dramatically improve the economics. Right now, with the current Starship launch costs, SpaceX will be able to prove out the first generation now, accept higher costs initially, and expand aggressively as Starship matures. Are there legitimate challenges? Absolutely. Real challenges include heat rejection, thermal management, building satellites at scale, manufacturing enough compute hardware, launch cadence, communications infrastructure, economic viability. But we're talking about one of the most capable engineering organizations on Earth. Their entire goal is to solve these problems profitably. The question isn't, is it hard? Of course it's hard. Everything worthwhile is hard. JFK said it best. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. The Apollo program accelerated technology. It pushed humanity beyond what many thought was possible. AI satellites could do something similar, not at the scale of Apollo, but as another important step. Potential future space industries such as manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, resource extraction, space based power generation, and mining are all industries that could spawn out of this AI satellite expansion. So, yes, I do believe AI satellites are possible. And not just that, I believe that they're inevitable. They will be challenging, and there are legitimate engineering hurdles. But I don't think the idea should be dismissed simply because it's difficult. Humanity advances by solving difficult problems, and that's how science fiction becomes science fact. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? If so, why? I genuinely like to hear your arguments in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.